Hi there, I am Tom. I don't sleeve my cards. Chick. Missed you guys yesterday. Don't know if you missed me, sorry, but we had May 5th, 2020 without a video posted. Although I did stand up here and say things, and I did try to do a follow-up. It's no longer May 5th, by the way. Let's go ahead and get May 6th out of the way. I have a public service announcement for everyone. Maybe sleeve your cards after all, or at least be more thoughtful about what you put on the table. I've always considered this the biggest threat. You know, this thing tumps over, it gets your cards wet, oops. Actually, I'm not sure how sleeving would help that because it could get under there, but consider this. I mean, this is relatively stable. It's not easy to knock over. Now consider this. This, not stable at all. This falls over with a stiff breeze. Also, hot wax comes off of this end. I tried to shoot last night with candlelight, and yeah, it didn't go so well. As you know, they shot Barry Lyndon by candlelight, Stanley Kubrick did, and he famously needed special equipment because they needed cameras that could shrug off hot wax. So I spent a good amount of last night cussing and getting hot wax off of my Arkham Noir cards. So never mind production values, never mind candlelight. Let's just play Arkham Noir, and I'll talk you through a game. Nothing fancy. I even was going to wear a trench coat. How dumb is that? 90 degrees here in Los Angeles. I'm going to wear a trench coat and play Arkham Noir by candlelight. Let's just go play the game. All right, come with me to the dining room table. All right, rather than just go through an elaborate explanation, I'm just going to start playing. I'll talk as we go. Here's our professional contact, Dr. Armitage. We can use him once. Here our 6 victims, actually potential victims. One of them we're going to put back in the box. The other 5 we shuffle up, and we're going to kill 2 of them. Poor Frank Elwood, poor Walter Gilman. It's the lead character from Dreams in the Witch House. Here are the other 3 potential victims. If ever we run out of victims to bring into play, we lose the game. Here are our 50 clue cards. Now, like a lot of games of this type, we have to get specific cards out of this deck and put them in a specific spot, namely this area here, which is the big picture. Each of these clue cards is one of 6 types. There are threats, there are places, and there are people. These are the 3 most common. There are also, these are a little harder to come by, evidence, artifacts, and the rarest of all, monsters. Every single clue card, all 50 of these, is one of those types. What we need to find are puzzle piece cards. We need 5 of the 6 types moved over here into the big picture. So for instance, if we manage to get Keziah Mason, the eponymous witch from Dreams in the Witch House, into the big picture over here, we don't need Ephraim Waite, the wizard, because they are both people. We only need 1 of each type of clue in this big picture. And we only need 5 of the 6 types. For instance, here's why Brown Jenkin is a big deal. He's the only monster that has this puzzle piece icon. There are 3, there's only a few other monsters. None of them have the puzzle piece icon. So we don't need Brown Jenkin. But if we don't get him, we need 1 of every other kind of clue into the big picture. So this game is all about getting these locked puzzle pieces up here. And we do that by lining the cards up into cases and then closing the cases. When we close a case, we can move one of those locked puzzle piece cards into the big picture. 50 clue cards. We deal 3 of them out to be our opening hand. We'll look at that in a minute. And now we're going to set up a row of leads. So here's our row of leads. Every turn is going to deal somehow with this card. This card right here, the first lead, will not be there by the time this turn is over. As a matter of fact, you can think about each turn as being, how will I interact with that first lead card? Now, the main thing you do with leads is you match the leading icon on the left with the previous card's icon on the right. And each of these icons, just like there are, so they're basically two sets of suits that really matter in this game. The first is the type of clue card. Remember, there are 6 of those, and then you link the clues using investigative techniques, which are the icons along the sides. The top tells you what type of clue it is. The icons along the side tell you what investigative techniques will connect them to a case. There are 6 types of clue cards and 5 types of investigative techniques. Actually 4. This any right here, it's wild. It can go anywhere, as you might imagine. Otherwise, there are conversations, there is surveillance, there is collecting clues, and there is research. We don't have this, though. I'm putting it back into the row of leads. So 6 types of clues, 2 open cases. To solve them, we need to get at least 5 types of clues linked to the original card. We're going to chain cards together into these open cases. Once we've got 5 types of clues, we can then consider closing the case. And if we close a case with one of those locks, none of which are out here, then we can set those aside into the big picture. So starting out right now, my lead clue is small handprints. It is evidence. I can use collection to link it to another card, and then I can link to it using surveillance or collection. This down here, there'll be icons in the bottom right-hand corner. These refer only to very specific situations. If I were making a sanity check and this flipped up, it would go into this row right here, which is how close I am to being insane and therefore losing the game. All right, I cannot use that collection icon right now. I need either an interview or a research or surveillance. So if I don't take this card, and if I don't put it into play in an open case, or put it into my hand of cards, which is limited to 3 cards, which is what I have right now, which would mean I would have to discard one of these. If I don't do one of those 2 things to take it out of its slot, I have to discard it and instead do something else, which is what I'm going to do right now. I am discarding that and putting into play Daniel Upton, the architect, connecting him to Frank Elwood, the murdered student. Now, once I put a card into play, I then look at these icons down here in the bottom center of the card. Anything that's black is mandatory. Anything that's brown is optional. This symbol right here means take from the row of leads any card you want and put it into your hand. I will take Paul Dombrowski, the landlord. And now my turn is over. Once your turn is over, you go to the maintenance phase. The first thing you check is whether you've gone insane by having 5 cards up here. I haven't. Then you check whether there are 5 cards in the time penalty pile. There aren't. Then you move the leads over and refill the row. All right, these little shreds in the upper left-hand corner, these have to do with prerequisites for putting a card into a case. This number 3 means it cannot be put in a case unless there are 3 other cards already in that case, not counting the victim. This key is fine. You can put it into a case and you want to. And what it means then is for each key in a case, you can then put 1 locked puzzle piece, which is what we need to do to win the game, but we don't have any locked puzzle pieces right now. But I want this card. All right, I must decide what to do with this. I am going to discard it. Because of that symbol, I don't move it to the discard pile. I instead move it up here to the time penalty pile. And because I've discarded it, I am adding the Polish landlord, as he's referred to in Dreams in the Witch House, to the Walter Gilman case. I can now take any card from the leads row to my hand. I will take this. So I want you to look at this row here. Look at all of these little symbols of a guy going insane. When I put these into play, I have to do a sanity check. Look at all of them. Look at the threats to my sanity. It's a horrible situation. And even look at the cards I have in my hand. 2 of them are sanity checks. All right, we're going to want to get Keziah Mason into play. She is one of the main puzzle pieces. Now, I can't put the Necronomicon into play, even though I could match this collection icon with this collection icon, because I don't have 3 cards in this open case. So I'm going to necessarily discard this. I will put Scratching Inside Walls, connecting to Daniel Upton, the architect, connecting to the murder of Frank Elwood, a student. This doesn't give me any special powers, so we simply move on to the next turn. This Object from Outside, and I love how from outside is in quotes. I will connect to the landlord, Paul Dombrowski. Now I have to make a sanity check. I flip this over, and it does have a sanity icon. So the Violet Witch Lights have driven me slightly crazy. If there are ever 5 cards here, I've lost the game. Now, in terms of card distribution, remember monsters are the rarest card. This Shoggoth, I want this. I can't put it into play yet because none of the cases that is open has 3 cards, but I'm instead going to take it into my hand, and that is my turn. I am at this point holding a Shoggoth, a Shambling Corpse, and an Ill-Regarded Island. I'm not sure how that compares to 3 of a kind. I'm guessing it beats it. All right, well, I do need evidence. I don't need it here. We've already got evidence in this case, the Scratching Inside the Walls. There's no evidence here, just a person and an artifact. So let's add Cyclical Disappearances. And then we do a sanity check again. And the Unnameable, one of the monsters. All right, we definitely want her. She can go here, but she can't because she doesn't connect. She can't go here because there's no key. So I'm going to take her into my hand, and I'm going to discard the Shoggoth. We want Randolph Carter because he's a key, but we don't want to just willy-nilly stack up cards here, because once a case opens beyond this limit, and this references it right here, you start making sanity checks for each additional card beyond the 7th that gets put into play. But I do like how Randolph Carter is going to let us then put Keziah Mason into play here. So I'm doing that. I can now draw a card from the discard pile. Is there any of these I really want? No. No, I'm moving these down here. I'm putting Keziah Mason into play here. So first we do a sanity check. Yikes. Now we shuffle the discard pile back into the draw deck. Oh, I had to discard this first to do it, of course. And then we move the leads row down. Hypnotism is good because we need a threat in both of these cases. Let's add it here. And when we play Hypnotism, we have to discard a card from our hand. And I will discard this Ill-Regarded Island, but you'll note because of that icon, it goes into the time penalty stack. I am discarding Moses Sargent, the servant, who looks like he's part deep one, to put a Shambling Corpse after Hypnotism. Now, any additional cards I put... Oh, and that's going to cause a sanity check. Jeez. Now, I can close this case once I have at least 5 different clues. We have a monster, a threat, a person, evidence, and an artifact. If I do get a 6th type of clue card out here, when I close the case, I can remove a card from my sanity track. All right, let's move the leads down. Let's add Unsettling Phone Call after Scratching Inside Walls. And now we must discard a card from the leads. We don't need evidence. We don't need threats, and that's going to require a sanity check. Let's get rid of this. I will take into my hand the Queerly Angled Garret. I will take into my hand the sealed loft. I will now close the case of Walter Gilman, a student. All right, I have in the open case a person, an artifact, evidence, a threat, and a monster. If any of these pieces have a lock on them, I can remove them so long as it doesn't bring me down below 5 different types of clues. So this goes here. We have now closed 1/5 of the big picture. It was Keziah Mason, the witch. Of course it was. These are the witch cult murders after all. These cards now go into the closed case stack, and we put poor Walter Gilman to rest. And to do that, oh, by the way, I always forget, I have to have discarded this card right here. I will discard fresh rat holes. I will draw into my hand complex angles leading, again, quotes, outside. I will discard the coded knock. And now we have 5 cards in the time penalty stack, which means these go to the discard pile. And we have a new victim, which, bad news, because now Joel Manton, the teacher, is dead. Good news, we have another place to attach cards. Discard Joe, the neighbor. Take into my hand, discard Meadow Hill. I mean, I would love to play Torn Apart by Great Force, but if I draw this and it's an insanity card, I will lose the game. So discard Torn Apart by Great Force. Play the queerly, discard this to play the queerly angled Garrett. This is really not a good idea, but I would love to put Children's Bones into play. And I could do that right here. If when I draw this has a madness icon on it, I will have lost the game. If it doesn't, I'm in really good shape. I feel like the Lovecraftian thing to do is to do it, is to just give it a shot. So, all right. In the case of Frank Elwood, the murdered student, after interviewing Daniel Upton, an architect, and then looking into scratching inside the walls, and during surveillance receiving an unsettling phone call, I've discovered children's bones. Oh my God, they're connected to the case. Do the children's bones drive me insane? No. And this doesn't get discarded because it has this icon, the Arkham Sanitarium. By the way, I would love to have the Arkham Sanitarium in play. It lets you take a card from the Insanity row. Also, the priest is going to let us do that in a minute. But I'm not crazy. And I'm that much closer to solving the murder of Frank Elwood. All right, so these move down here. I'm going to take Father Iwanicki into my hand. He will later let me remove a sanity card. I will discard John Upham, math professor. I will discard small handprints. I will succumb to this irresistible pull. Now I must discard a card from my hand. I can't take a chance with the sealed loft anyway. I will add this old diary. Look at all these keys. This is ridiculous. And I can take a card from the discard pile. What do I want? All right, I will take fresh rat holes from the discard pile. That's what I discovered from the old diary. Oh, I'd love to put these cryptic papers into play, but I can't risk it. So I will discard the cryptic papers in order to play the fresh rat holes, which will now let me take a card from the time penalty box. I will take the Arkham Sanitarium. I will discard the Old Burying Ground in order to put Father Iwanicki into play, in the case of Joel Manton. And that lets me remove a card from up here. And the card that I remove and draw into my hand will be Ephraim Waite the Wizard. I will put Crown and Shield House into play here. And then now, because I have enough keys lined up, Lord knows, the Knife of Grotesque Design will come into play in the case of Joel Manton. And it lets me draw a card from the Leads row if I want. And I actually don't want any of those. I will discard the Necronomicon and use Dr. Armitage, Professional Contact, as a key in this row here to allow me to put Complex Angles Leading Outside right here. I will discard Recently Trampled Grass. Discard actually take into my hand the Pit of Shoggoths. Not sure that it matters that much. Yeah, I'll go ahead and discard that. Now there are 5 cards here. They get put there, and we have a third case open. Azimuth Waite, Murdered Student. I will put the Alley into play here. And perfect timing for the Shoggoth. So I will put the Shoggoth into play here. For the case of Frank Elwood, after interviewing Daniel Upton and then hearing scratching inside the walls, which I receive an unsettling phone call while I was listening to the scratching in the walls, and it directed me to Children's Bones, which didn't drive me crazy, in the Crown Shield House, where I researched complex angles leading outside and came across a Shoggoth, which causes a sanity check, which I failed, but also shuffles the discard pile back into the deck. All right, I will draw the Rat Bite into my hand. I really want to put Brown Jenkin here, but it'll be a fatal sanity check if I fail. If I succeed, though, it's basically a win. I mean, eventually, I think shoot. I gotta let the little guy go. I can't chance it. I already bucked the odds with the Children's Bones. I don't want to go up against Brown Jenkin. All right, so I am discarding Brown Jenkin to close out the case of Frank Elwood. We have a person, evidence, a threat, a place, and a monster. If we take out this threat, we still have a threat. If we take out this evidence, we still have evidence. So that now is 2 more of the 5 types of clue cards we need in the big picture. We have Keziah Mason, Complex Angles Leading Outside, and Children's Bones. We're about to get this relic in there, I hope. Let's discard Shot in the Head 6 times. So we know Brown Jenkin is the only monster we could put up here. Since we're not probably going to get him there, we need to get a place we're going to get this artifact. So we've just got to look out for one of the places that has a puzzle piece on it. There's 2 of them out there. They're obviously in here, right? Yeah. All right, well, let's get the Miskatonic University Library in play so that we have a key down here. And that will let us draw a card from up here. We won't need Keziah Mason. Let's grab the Fetid Odor. And then discard that. Aha! The Sealed Loft. That's what we want. All right, if we can get the Sealed Loft here, I think we'll have won, right? So we just have to do it without going mad. So let's put Superstitious Rumors down here, connecting to the Miskatonic University Library. It lets me draw a card out of the Closed Cases stack. I'm not sure there's one I really need. We'll take Randolph Carter and discard the Fetid Odor. Now we will add the Arkham Sanitarium to the case of Asenath Waite, and it'll let us take one of these cards into our hand. Take this fella, because why not? We're discarding this to do it. We are discarding the Disturbing Personality Change. We are putting the Sealed Loft into this case here, which requires a sanity check, which we passed because Joe Mazurowitz, the neighbor, he's not much of a cause for insanity. And we are now closing the case of Joel Manton by discarding this card. We need 5 types of clues. We have a place, a threat, an artifact, evidence, and a person. We can take out a place and still have a place. We can take out an evidence and still have evidence. So these go into the big picture. And we have now solved the witch cult murders. It was at the Sealed Loft with the knife of grotesque design as evinced by these children's bones under threat of complex angles leading outside. Of course the culprit was Keziah Mason, the witch. There you go. And I didn't spill a drop of wax to get it done. Oh, shoot a monkey. Ugh.